Hello and welcome to a video about a topic that is once again near and dear to my heart when it comes to friendships, and that is something I see all the time that on the surface might not seem like it has anything to do with quality friendships, but I am convinced that it does. So let's talk about settling in your romantic relationships because you don't have any friends. Or really, maybe more accurately, settling in your romantic relationships because you don't have good friendships. This is something I feel like I see all the time. I meet women and men. I don't think this is specific to one gender or the other. I think people do this all the time. I think this is something that is just common among the human experience, where I am talking to a person about their romantic relationship and whether they're satisfied with it or whether they're happy in it, whether they feel like it's fulfilling for them. And ultimately, when it really comes down to it, they are not. They feel like maybe the person they're with is not totally the right person for them, but it's hard for them to admit that because if they let that person go, they're gonna experience loneliness. They feel like they go on a couple extra dates with a guy or a girl that is not totally exciting to them, but they're trying it out. They're giving it that extra chance simply because they're experiencing loneliness. I think this is one of those things that's a little bit harder to correlate. The thing is, when people are experiencing loneliness, a lot of times the first problem is that they have a lot of trouble identifying that they're even feeling lonely and that they need to do something about it. But even when a person has identified that they're feeling lonely and they're willing to take action, they're willing to take steps in the right direction to solve this problem, a lot of times immediately people go for romantic relationships. They say, I'm feeling lonely, I need a companion, I need closeness, I need intimacy, I need reliability, I need a constant presence. And these are all things that we associate naturally with romantic relationships. The culture that we live in really emphasizes the importance of romantic relationships. There's never any weirdness, for lack of a better word, around intentionally pursuing a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, or a wife. Those are things that are normalized, and you're not going to encounter too much friction from people when you tell them that that's what you're going after. But when you think about friendships, the way that society normalizes dating in order to find a romantic partner, we don't normalize dating for friends, for lack of a better word. That is to say, it's a little bit less common to hear people say, oh, I'm really seeking out more friendships right now. I'm in a phase of life where I'm really trying to develop and maintain friendships. I do hear this every once in a while. I'm not going to say I never hear it, but it's definitely not as big of a focus for us as romantic relationships. And even if it is a big focus, it's not necessarily as normal to pursue it as heavily. So I'll go back to the original topic. Settling in your romantic relationship because you don't have friends. This is not something that you're going to be able to directly correlate. It's not necessarily natural to say, I am settling in my romantic relationship because I don't have any friends. But the reality is, when you've put in the work, when you've put in the time, the effort, and the energy to create a larger community, and maybe more importantly, a closer community, when you've been intentional about having intimacy with your friends to some level, and obviously your friends are not going to be as intimate of a relationship as your romantic partner, and they're not designed to be that way. But I do believe friendships are designed to be intimate to some degree, and there's different levels of closeness and intimacy with different friends. Of course, you're gonna have really, really close friends. You're gonna have friends that are a little more second tier. I think it's probably a little controversial to talk about your friends in like first tier, second tier, and third tier terminology. But this channel is meant to talk about things that people don't want to hear and things that people are not going to tell you to your face. So that being said, I personally believe whether you admit it to yourself or not, or whether you put your friends inside of that framework, your friends are inside of that framework anyways. You just haven't identified it and labeled it. But they are. You have friends that you're closer with and more intimate with. You have friends that you maybe see once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, and that's maximum. And then you have friends that you see like every 6 months. And this is happening whether you label it or not. And when you have a framework within your community like that, where you know you have a couple close people that are always going to be there for you, you have people that you can call for dinner on a random Friday night that you have nothing else going on and make plans with them. You have people that come to your mind when there's something really weighing heavily on you and you know that person would appreciate being thought of for that conversation. These are all things that, number one, take a lot of time and effort to build, and number two, make people feel more fulfilled and a lot less lonely. And when you have this framework and you don't feel lonely in your day-to-day life, you are much less likely to settle in your romantic relationship because you're not looking for that man or that one woman to fill all the gaps that you have in your life. The reality is that your boyfriend or your girlfriend is not supposed to fill all the gaps that are supposed to be filled by a larger community. They have a role in your life and you should have high standards for that role because that person's going to influence you very heavily. So if you have set up a life for yourself, if you have curated friendships and general community that keep you from feeling these larger gaps, you're less likely to look to that one person to fill all those gaps, because odds are that person is not going to be able to fill those gaps, and then nor should they, because as people, we're not designed to be that much to somebody else. We have to be a lot more self-reliant, which I know sounds counterintuitive because we're talking about relying on a lot of other people. But you have to have confidence in yourself to be the community builder. You are the machine that creates the community. You are the person attracting a lot of different relationship dynamics into your life. You're deciding how much of your own time and energy that relationship should hold, what place that person should hold in your life. And ultimately, you are the decider. You are the machine. You are in complete control of your own community. And I don't want to discount how much effort this actually takes. You have to genuinely pursue friends. Again, that's another video I want to make about being intentional about pursuing friends, but that's for another day. So you do have to be intentional. You have to be the machine. And you have to start filling the gaps in your life that you think should be filled by a romantic relationship. But in reality, you're feeling loneliness from a much deeper and larger problem, which is that you have not been a machine to create community within your own life, no matter your situation. I've talked to so many people about their romantic relationships, whether they're on the dating market or they've been with their partner for 2 years, they've been with their partner for 10 years. People are so unsatisfied with the quality of their own romantic relationships, but they're so willing to settle in this area because, number one, society really normalizes pursuing romantic relationships and putting in a lot of effort to maintain them. And number two, because they feel a general sense of loneliness that to some degree their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their husband or their wife does fill a lot of that loneliness gap, but then they don't take the next step of understanding why that person is not filling the gap in the specific way that they want. And I think people find themselves really disheartened and discouraged by not being able to find particular character traits or qualities in a romantic partner, because again, you're looking for that person to be everything to you, and that person cannot be everything to you. For example, let's say you have a hobby that you're really passionate about and you really like to talk in depth about that hobby. I'm gonna use an example from my own life because I am a self-proclaimed serial hobbyist and I know what this feels like. So let's say that you have been learning guitar and you're really pumped about it and it's really exciting, and you come home from guitar lessons and you want to tell your partner every single thing about guitar lessons. You want to tell them the songs that you were working on. You want to tell them the chords that you mastered. You want to tell them something funny that happened during guitar lessons and why it was so fun. It's not likely that your partner is going to be as interested in guitar as you are. It's borderline unreasonable to expect because they're not learning guitar. They probably have a hobby that they could talk for hours about, but it's not your hobby. And while I think your romantic partner should obviously be supportive of your hobbies to some extent, it's not unreasonable for them not to sit around and talk about it for an hour every single time you get home from guitar lessons or right after every guitar practice. What is more reasonable is if you, as someone who's passionate about playing guitar, have taken the steps and put in the effort towards creating a community around guitar. Maybe you're a part of a band, maybe you take group lessons and you talk to your group members, or maybe some of your existing friends play guitar and you can talk to them about it a little bit more in depth with someone who's interested. When you have that structure set up in your life for yourself, you're a lot less likely to be so reliant on your partner for that support that you're looking for with your hobbies. It's not unreasonable to want support when you're trying to put yourself out there, you're trying to build a particular skill, you're trying to be more well-rounded. Everybody wants support in anything they do, particularly if you're trying to better yourself. But if you are living a particularly well-rounded life, your partner is not going to be able to support every single endeavor that you're taking on. I've talked to so many people about their romantic relationships, whether they have been dating their partner for a year, whether they've been dating their partner for 5 years, or even if they're just on the dating scene, they're just going on dates while they're single. And so many people are dissatisfied with what they're finding in their existing partner or a partner that they're searching for. And even though they can identify that they're not satisfied, they will continue to pursue that person. Maybe they'll go on a couple more dates with a person that they're not particularly excited about. Maybe they'll stay with their partner of 5 years because they've already put in 5 years and it feels like a waste, or it feels like throwing away a relationship. At that point, almost 100% of the time, behind that decision is a deep fear of loneliness. However, when you have friends that you have high standards for, and when you act as a machine to curate positive relationships in your life, you are going to find yourself surrounded by people who offer you support, people who listen to you when you talk, people who are interested in your life genuinely, people who call you to check in on you, people who come over to your house, people who invite you over to their house, people who put plans on the calendar and then stick to those plans. When this is your everyday, you can start to evaluate your romantic relationship from a much healthier place of someone who already has a very well-rounded life, someone who has found independent happiness and doesn't rely on a partner to bring them happiness. And furthermore, you set your standards a lot higher for what a romantic partner should be, because you already have friends and a large community of people who are setting that standard and then maintaining that standard over a long period of time. And it becomes a situation where you're not feeling a deep sense of loneliness on a regular basis. You're simply looking for someone to complement your already very fulfilling life. Listen, even though this channel is about friendship specifically, I am a huge proponent of not settling in your romantic relationships. You should be completely on board with moving forward with your partner and creating a life with your partner. They're one of the most influential, if not the most influential person in your life. They're gonna have a huge impact on you. It's gonna be either negative or positive. And this is not an area where you wanna settle. And I'm here to tell you that creating a large community and a close community where you have true intimacy with your friends is a huge part of stepping back and analyzing your romantic relationships a lot more objectively, because you're coming from a healthy place of someone who's created a fantastic community. And now that romantic partner is just gonna add to it. They're not gonna be the entire makeup of your companionship. So you might be thinking at this point, well, I have a lot of friends. I feel like I'm pretty close with them and I still feel lonely without a romantic partner. That's going to be true to some extent. I'm not here to say that friends will fill the gap that a romantic relationship is supposed to fill. Those two relationships are designed differently. So by no means do I want you to take away from this that you're going to be totally fine if you never pursue romance and just rely on friends. That's not the way that we're designed. I don't think that's the way we should be designed. I just want you to embrace having a full and well-rounded community with intimacy and have higher standards for your romantic relationships because of your community. So at this point, we could delve into how to create actual meaningful intimacy with your friends and how to grow closer connections with the friends that you already have so that they feel a little bit more meaningful. But that is content worthy of an entirely separate video. So if you are interested in creating more intimacy with your existing friends or creating intimacy right off the bat with new friends that you make, stay tuned. That's coming up. Okay, bye.